Ladies and gentlemen, your greatest enemy doesn't need to be defeated with fists, arguments, or rage, because the most devastating way to destroy someone is not by fighting them at all. Imagine stripping them of the one thing they crave most: your attention, your reaction, your energy. What if every move you made turned their attacks into fuel for your success? What if the harder they tried to break you, the stronger, calmer, and more untouchable you became? Stay with me, because I'm about to show you exactly how to turn silence, discipline, and success into weapons so powerful they'll never recover. When you think about the word enemy, your mind probably goes to conflict, to fighting, to confrontation. But here's the truth. The strongest people don't waste their energy in open battles. They win without swinging a single punch, without raising their voice, without ever letting the other side see them sweat. Real power is silent, disciplined, and relentless. And if you really want to destroy your enemy without fighting them, you have to understand that the battlefield isn't out there, it's within you. Every single move you make determines whether you rise above or stay chained to them. The first way to destroy your enemy is to outgrow them. Nothing suffocates someone more than realizing they no longer matter in your world. When you level up in your life, when you evolve into someone they can't reach, you strip them of the power they once held over you. Growth is the ultimate revenge. Because while they stay stuck in bitterness or obsession, you're climbing higher, untouchable. Second, silence is your weapon. Don't feed into their noise. Don't respond to their provocations. People crave reactions. They want proof that they've gotten under your skin. When you give them nothing, you starve them. You become unreadable, and in that space of not knowing, their imagination torments them more than anything you could ever say. Third, master yourself. Control your emotions like a professional. They may try to manipulate you, push your buttons, or drag you into chaos. But if you can stand calm, measured, unshaken, you've already won. Discipline is not just about action, it's about restraint. Imagine the frustration of someone who tries to ignite a fire in you, and all they get is cold steel in return. That is psychological dominance. Fourth, surpass them in excellence. Be so good at what you do that their very existence becomes irrelevant. Outperform them, outshine them, outlast them. While they waste energy focusing on you, you're busy stacking wins, building your reputation, and making your presence undeniable. There's no louder statement than becoming undeniable. Fifth, use time as your ally. Most enemies burn themselves out. They get impatient, reckless, sloppy. If you have patience, if you can wait, their own actions will destroy them. Time exposes people for who they are. Let them unravel while you keep steady. Often, the greatest destroyer is not force. It's allowing them to collapse under the weight of their own choices. Sixth, stay unpredictable. The greatest frustration you can cause is to keep them guessing. Don't let them pin you down. Don't let them anticipate your next move. If they can't read you, they can't counter you. Become a moving target they can't track. The less predictable you are, the more powerless they feel. Seventh, build alliances, not enemies. Your strength grows when you cultivate connections, when you surround yourself with people who elevate you. Your enemy may try to isolate you, to make you feel small, but when you stand with others, when you strengthen your network, you remove their leverage. Power is multiplied when it is shared wisely. Eighth, protect your reputation. Character is your armor. Don't let anyone tarnish it, not even your own impulses. Live in such a way that when they speak against you, no one believes them. Your integrity becomes your shield, and it makes their attacks look weak, desperate, and hollow. A strong reputation destroys enemies without you ever lifting a hand. Ninth, don't give them access to your energy. Your attention is currency. Stop spending it on them. Redirect it toward your mission, your purpose, your future. When they realize they no longer occupy space in your mind, it cuts deeper than any words or actions ever could. To erase them from your mental real estate is to strip them of significance. 10th, succeed. Nothing destroys an enemy more than watching you thrive, because success is proof. Proof that they didn't break you, proof that they couldn't hold you back, proof that their presence was nothing more than background noise in the story of your rise. Success is not about showing them. It's about proving to yourself that you are unstoppable. The truth is, Destruction doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like stillness, progress, composure. When you no longer fight, when you no longer need to engage, you take away the oxygen your enemy needs to survive. You stop playing their game and instead rewrite the rules. They want conflict, you give them silence. They want your downfall, you rise higher. They want control, you remain free. That is the art of destroying an enemy without ever fighting them. The art of destroying an enemy without fighting them is not about winning a single battle. It's about mastering a way of living that places you in permanent command. Think about it. Anyone can lash out, anyone can yell, argue, or throw a punch. That takes no discipline, no intelligence, no foresight. But the one who keeps their power contained, the one who channels it into growth, into progress, into mastery, that is the one who is truly dangerous. Because destruction doesn't always come through force. More often, it comes through showing your enemy that they are powerless in every attempt to disrupt your path. When you outgrow someone, you're not just leaving them behind, you're showing them a mirror of their own stagnation. Imagine running a race where your opponent keeps trying to trip you, but you've already lapped them. That's what growth feels like. They try to pull you down into the same arguments, the same petty conflicts, but you've already advanced into a different league. That gap you create by leveling up becomes unbearable for them because it highlights everything they are not. Silence, too, is sharper than a blade. People expect noise, retaliation, pushback. They thrive on conflict. When they don't get it, they suffocate in their own emptiness. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Every time you refuse to engage, you're letting them fight shadows. They waste their breath, their time, their energy, swinging at someone who refuses to step into the ring. And in that frustration, they begin to crumble. Silence is louder than any scream when it comes from someone in full control. Mastering yourself is perhaps the most underrated weapon. We live in a world where people are addicted to reaction. They want to prove a point in the moment. They want to lash out. But if you can master restraint, if you can sit in the storm without breaking, you become untouchable. Emotional control is power. Think about the great leaders, the negotiators, the warriors throughout history. The ones who endured were those who refused to be led by impulse. Your enemy will try to provoke you, to bait you into mistakes. When you refuse, when you respond with measured precision, you show them they can't reach you. That's the ultimate psychological win. Excellence is another silent killer. It's one thing to say you're better, it's another to prove it daily through performance. Excellence requires sacrifice, discipline, and patience, all the things your enemy may not have. When you channel your energy into mastery, into becoming great at what you do, you build a track record that speaks for itself. They can gossip, they can criticize, they can attack, but your results overshadow every word. And the more undeniable your excellence becomes, the more irrelevant their presence feels. Time has a way of exposing people. You don't need to rush into conflict when you know that most enemies burn themselves out. Impatience is their downfall. They'll show their true colors when they realize you won't engage. They'll slip, they'll overreach, they'll reveal weaknesses they tried to hide. You only need to remain steady, consistent, and focused. Let them unravel under the weight of their own poor choices. Sometimes doing nothing but waiting is the most lethal move you can make. Unpredictability keeps them powerless. Predictable people are easy to control. If your enemy knows exactly what you'll do, they can trap you, manipulate you, plan around you. But when you refuse to be predictable, when you shift your patterns, keep them guessing, and never reveal your full playbook, you frustrate them into mistakes. Be like water. Adaptable, flexible, moving where they least expect. Confusion breaks confidence, and when they lose confidence, they lose control. Alliances amplify your strength. No one wins alone, not truly. While your enemy wastes time isolating themselves with bitterness and hate, you're busy building bridges, forging partnerships, and surrounding yourself with people who uplift and support you. Every alliance you make weakens your enemy's influence because they no longer face just you. They face an entire network of resilience. And in that network multiplies your resources, your reach, and your resilience. Reputation is something you guard with your life. In many cases, it's not about what you say or do in a moment. It's about the foundation you've built over years. A solid reputation is nearly impossible to destroy. When your character is consistent, when people trust who you are, no attack from your enemy can stick. Their words bounce off because the world already knows the truth. The higher your reputation, the lower their credibility sinks. Protecting your energy is an act of self-respect. You can't control what people say or do, but you can control how much space you allow them to occupy in your mind. Every minute spent dwelling on them is a minute stolen from your own growth. Your energy is precious. Invest it in your goals, your passions, your vision. When you stop feeding them with attention, they become irrelevant, like shadows disappearing in the light. And success is the final blow. Nothing erases an enemy's power more than watching you thrive despite their efforts. They wanted you broken. They wanted you stuck. They wanted to see you fail. And yet, here you are, rising, achieving, winning. Success is undeniable proof that they had no control over you. It is the ultimate form of destruction, not because you aimed it at them, but because you aimed it at yourself and hit every target. Your existence becomes a reminder of their failure to stop you. But understand this. Destroying your enemy without fighting them isn't about vengeance. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about refusing to be controlled by their actions. It's about realizing that the greatest victory you can ever have is to live your life on your terms, unshaken and unapologetic. Every time you choose restraint, growth, discipline, and focus, you're stripping them of influence. Every step forward is a silent declaration that they no longer matter. The world will always have people who try to undermine you, who envy your progress, who resent your presence. You cannot stop that. But you can decide how you respond, and in that decision lies your power. Do you fight and feed them, or do you rise and starve them? The choice will always be yours. Your enemy's true destruction begins the moment you stop acknowledging them as equal players in your story. They become background noise while you remain the main character. They shrink while you expand. They waste energy while you conserve and redirect yours toward greatness. They fight battles you never even step into. That is how you win without fighting. That is how you destroy without lifting a hand. The greatest trap you could ever fall into is believing that your enemy deserves your constant focus. The moment you give them your attention, you give them your energy. And when you give them your energy, you fuel them. You empower the very thing you claim to want gone. The key to destroying them without fighting is not in chasing them, it's in redirecting every ounce of that energy into yourself. Imagine what happens when you take all the time you could have spent arguing, plotting, or reacting, and instead pour it into your craft, your body, your mind, your mission. You become sharper, stronger, unstoppable. Meanwhile, they stand still, waiting for a fight that never comes. Every enemy craves validation. They want to know they've disrupted your world. When you stay unshaken, when you don't even flinch, you deny them the confirmation they seek. That denial eats away at them. It forces them into desperation, into louder outbursts, into reckless moves, and the more they spiral, the more you rise. That imbalance between their chaos and your composure becomes the battlefield, and it is one you will always win. Think about a fire. Flames only burn as long as they have fuel. Why? Our enemy is the same. They burn hot when you feed them attention, when you argue, when you react. But cut off the fuel and the fire dies out. That's what discipline does. It starves them of oxygen while you breathe freely. And in their suffocation, you gain clarity, strength, and momentum. There's also the reality that your enemy often reveals more about themselves than they ever realize. Watch closely. They show you their insecurities through the way they attack. They expose their weaknesses in what they criticize. They tell you who they are every time they try to bring you down. If you are patient, if you are observant, you'll learn exactly where they are fragile. And the beauty is, you won't even need to exploit it. Life will do that for you. People cannot escape their flaws when they refuse to grow. Eventually, those flaws consume them. Your job is not to destroy them directly. Your job is to become so focused on becoming the best version of yourself that destruction happens naturally. It's not about force, it's about inevitability. Excellence makes mediocrity look small. Confidence makes insecurity look loud. Success makes envy look pitiful. When you embody strength, Their weakness is revealed without you ever having to say a word. Some of the most powerful victories in history came not from war, but from patience, strategy, and endurance. The person who reacts out of anger often loses, while the one who waits, who chooses their moment, who refuses to waste energy on meaningless battles, those are the ones who come out ahead. You're not here to win skirmishes, you're here to build an empire, brick by brick, step by step. An empire that will outlast every enemy because it wasn't built on their destruction, it was built on your vision. When you rise to that level of power, you'll notice something. Your enemies will start to compete with ghosts. They'll fight battles you're not even in. They'll talk about you when you haven't spoken their name in years. They'll measure themselves against someone who has already moved on. And the more they do that, the smaller they become in comparison. You will no longer even need to acknowledge them. Your very existence will be enough to undo them. And let's talk about dignity. There's a kind of strength that comes from maintaining your dignity when others abandon theirs. An enemy who stoops low, who lies, who lashes out, who acts out of desperation. They reveal their weakness with every move. When you carry yourself with honor, when you refuse to sink to their level, you create a contrast so sharp that no one can miss it. The world sees who is steady and who is spiraling, and that perception is another layer of destruction. There's another truth that few people want to hear. Sometimes the best way to destroy your enemy is to forgive them, not for them, but for yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean you let them back in. It doesn't mean you excuse what they've done. It means you refuse to let them take up residence in your heart. When you carry bitterness, you're still tethered to them. When you let go, you cut the cord. And nothing destroys someone more than realizing you've freed yourself while they're still shackled to hate. But don't confuse forgiveness with weakness. Forgiveness is control. It's the ability to say, you no longer have power here. That level of mental dominance can't be faked. It is the ultimate form of moving forward without looking back. It is showing your enemy that their chapter in your life is closed, sealed, and no longer relevant. Never underestimate the role of consistency. A single victory means little if it's not sustained. Destroying your enemy without fighting is not about one big dramatic moment. It's about showing up every single day with focus and discipline. While they obsess over you, you are consistent. While they plot, you are persistent. While they waste energy, you are building. Consistency wears down everything. It is the slow, steady hammer that breaks the hardest stone. And here's something most people miss. Your enemy is often their own worst enemy. They may try to sabotage you, but in reality, they are sabotaging themselves. Their obsession with you distracts them from their own growth. Their attempts to harm you backfire because they reveal their character. Their fixation blinds them to opportunities. If you keep moving forward, you'll watch them unravel under the weight of their own choices. Think of life as a stage. You are the one writing your script, performing your role, directing your story. Your enemy? They're just an extra trying to steal the spotlight. But you don't give them lines. You don't give them scenes. You don't even acknowledge their presence in the story. And without attention, without recognition, they fade into the background, irrelevant and forgotten. That's the quietest, cleanest destruction possible. At the heart of it all, the lesson is simple. You don't need to fight your enemy. You just need to live so powerfully, so intentionally, so unapologetically that their efforts collapse on their own. They want you reactive. Stay calm. They want you distracted. Stay focused. They want you broken. Stay whole. They want you angry. Stay disciplined. Every choice you make that contradicts their desires is a strike against them, and you never had to lift a hand. The moment you realize that destruction without conflict is not about the other person, but about you, everything changes. Your enemy becomes irrelevant because the real contest was never between you and them. It has always been between you and the version of yourself that could be distracted, derailed, or diminished by their presence. Every time you choose not to engage, every time you take the higher path, every time you redirect your energy into growth rather than confrontation, you're proving to yourself that you are operating on a higher frequency. And when you live at that frequency, enemies cannot touch you because they don't even exist in the same dimension as you anymore. Your enemy thrives on access. If they can reach you, if they can make you react, if they can alter your mood or your path, then they believe they've won. This is why the most effective destruction comes from closing the door completely. Imagine a hallway filled with doors, and behind one of them stands your enemy, screaming, pounding, demanding your attention. If you open the door, even for a moment, you let their chaos spill into your life. But if you keep that door shut, if you never give them the privilege of your response, then they can scream until they lose their voice. Eventually, they tire, they weaken, they fade. You haven't lifted a hand, but you've already won. This is where discipline comes in. Most people cannot resist the urge to prove themselves, to retaliate, to clap back. That impulse is what traps them in endless cycles of conflict. Discipline is what separates the powerful from the powerless. Discipline says, I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to respond. I don't need to waste energy on this. And when you can master that discipline consistently, your enemy has nothing left to grab hold of. It's like trying to wrestle with smoke. Impossible, frustrating, demoralizing. Another piece most people overlook is image. Not vanity, not surface-level appearances, but the way you carry yourself in the world. Your posture, your composure, your tone, your consistency. These are weapons. If you show up every day sharp, polished, unshaken, it becomes a silent reminder to your enemy that nothing they've does. Nay has worked. You're still standing taller than ever. There's nothing more infuriating to someone who wanted to see you broken than watching you glow stronger. Your very presence becomes an act of defiance without you ever having to confront them directly. And then there's legacy. Your enemy thinks in the short term. They want to win today, to get a reaction now, to feel validated immediately. But the one who thinks in terms of legacy already wins because their horizon is bigger. When you're focused on building something that will outlast you, their attacks look small, almost childish. They throw stones at you while you're laying bricks, and as your wall rises higher, their stones don't even reach you anymore. Part of destroying your enemy is also about endurance. Most people quit too early. They want quick results, instant victory. But endurance is the ability to stay the course no matter how long it takes. Your enemy may try to outlast you, to see if you'll break first. But if you've trained yourself for endurance, mentally, physically, emotionally, there's no contest. While they burn out chasing you, you're still there, calm, steady, moving forward. And nothing destroys a rival more than realizing they lack the stamina to keep up with you. There's also the element of reinvention. When you constantly evolve, when you refuse to stay the same, you make it impossible for your enemy to pin you down. They may have known the old version of you, the one with weaknesses, the one they thought they could manipulate or control. But every time you reinvent yourself, you create distance. They're fighting yesterday's version of you, while today's version has already surpassed them. Reinvention is transformation, and transformation is a kind of destruction, because it renders their knowledge of you obsolete. Consider also the psychological effect of joy. Nothing destroys an enemy faster than seeing you happy. Happiness is proof that their attempts to sabotage you failed. It is evidence that you are unshaken, that your life continues to flourish despite their efforts. True joy is uncontainable. It radiates in your face, your body language, your energy. And when they see that glow, when they realize they couldn't dim it, it eats away at them in ways words never could. And while you're living in that joy, don't underestimate the impact of silence paired with success. Silence creates mystery. Success provides undeniable evidence. Together, they form a combination that drives enemies insane. Because not only do they not know what you're doing, they also cannot deny that whatever you're doing is working. They can't predict you, they can't stop you, and they can't match you. That's the trifecta of destruction. One of the most underrated tactics in this approach is self-mastery. Self-mastery means you're not only in control of your emotions, but also your habits, your choices, your routines. It means you're no longer at the mercy of distraction or temptation. Your enemy may hope you'll self-destruct, that you'll get sloppy, that you'll sabotage yourself, but when you operate with mastery, you deny them that chance. Every controlled decision you make is another reminder that you're not only beyond their reach, you're beyond their understanding. And let's not forget influence. Influence is power without force. It's the ability to move people, inspire people, shift energy simply through presence and consistency. Influence grows when people trust you, when they respect you, when they see results from your actions. The greater your influence, the smaller your enemy looks in comparison, Because while they're busy trying to tear you down, you're busy building others up. And in the run, influence always wins over conflict. Understand this. Your enemy is studying you. They're watching, waiting, hoping for cracks. They want to see you break so they can feel validated. But when you show them nothing, no cracks, no weakness, no stumble, they realize they've wasted their time. They can't defeat someone who refuses to play. And that realization is destruction in its purest form, a collapse of their belief in their own power. The deeper truth is that you don't destroy your enemy by focusing on them. You destroy them by forgetting them. By removing them from your mind, you deny them the very thing they crave. To be ignored is to be erased. And when you erase them from your thoughts, they cease to exist in your reality. That is the most devastating blow you can deliver.